Don't buy a house in 2025, and it's a warning. This is what the World Economic Forum stated in January 2017, 8 years ago. Welcome to 2030. You own nothing, you have no privacy, and life has never been better. Over the last 5 years, the global economy has faced tough challenges, and it looks like this trend will continue. Let me be clear, this is not a hopeful video. I'm here to discuss a serious topic, warn you, and give you 4 reasons why you shouldn't buy a house in 2025. But that's not all. By the end of this video, I'll share strategies to protect yourself during crisis and ensure the safety of your money and your family. First motive, you have no money. Okay, it should be obvious, but people are still buying things they can afford. And yeah, those 0% financing programs, the FHA loans, the adjustable mortgage, they're designed to make you feel like you're getting a great deal, but here's the catch. You're committing to future expenses you might not be able to handle. Before committing yourself to this huge debt, ask yourself these questions. Would I buy it without those adjustable mortgage rates? Would I buy it if a down payment were necessary? Would I buy it without relying on FHA loans? And if the answers to all these questions is no, then don't buy it now. If you need those things, it's already a bad sign. FHA loans are typically offered to people with debt or lower credit scores, which means the system is already stacking the odds against you. And just because there's no upfront payment doesn't mean the cost disappears. Life happens. Emergencies, job changes, or unexpected expenses can derail your ability to keep up with payments. Then there's the psychological trap of affordability. Breaking payments into small chunks makes the total cost feel smaller than it actually is. But those small bites out of your income add up fast, real fast. And don't forget, having no money means having no buffer. Without savings, any financial commitment, no matter how manageable it seems, is risky. One missed payment could lead to penalties, fees, or worse, cycle of debt. It's not about denying yourself everything. It's about protecting your future self. The real flex, owning what you have without owing anyone. Okay, but maybe you are one of those who actually have a little bit of money, and I still think you wouldn't buy a house. Why? Because of the second motive. Job market is in a shake grown. Let's imagine you're not completely broke. You've got $100,000 in your account and a solid income. Even in this situation, buying a house in 2025 might not be the best move. And here's why. In the past 2 years, major companies like Amazon, Meta, and Google have laid off tens of thousands of employees, and it's not slowing down. Globally, 41% of companies plan to reduce staff due to automation and AI by 2030. Jobs we once thought were secure are disappearing. Economic uncertainty driven by inflation, supply chain disruptions, and geopolitical tensions has also led to hiring freezes and salary cuts. And if your income takes a hit, here's the harsh reality. Mortgage payments don't pause. They pile up. Sure, freelancing and gig work are on the rise, but that creates unpredictable income. If your paycheck varies month to month, managing fixed expenses like a mortgage becomes a gamble. Now let me open your eyes to something. Imagine two people. One makes $30K a month and has $100K saved. The other makes $5K a month but has $5 million saved. Who's truly wealthy? It's the second guy, of course. Why? Because if the first guy spends every penny he earns, he's just one bad month, one job loss or business failure away from financial ruin. The second guy, on the other hand, is safe. Even with a lower income, his savings give him stability. If he's smart, he lives below his means, continues saving, and can easily retire without stress. That's the person I want you to be. Someone who doesn't just think about today's paycheck, but plans for the long term. Someone who saves consistently, builds a safety net, and only makes big purchases like a house when you're truly ready. Because let's be real, when you're financially stable like that second guy, you can buy a house. Maybe not a mansion, but a good, solid home home that you can actually afford without risking your future. If the first guy buys a house, he'll likely spend the next several years struggling, living in constant fear, working tirelessly, because despite his high income, he's effectively broke with no real savings to back him up. And let's be real, he or his kids will probably end up selling the property in the future to cover medical expenses or fund his retirement. That's exactly what's happening with many boomers today. Their millennial children are selling off family assets because they're drowning in debt and can't afford to keep up. It's a harsh reality, but one that could be avoided with better financial planning. The right math is not, oh, I can pay the down payment and I can pay the mortgage, so I'll buy this house. It's actually, I have an emergency fund, a good amount saved to my retirement, and I will continue to save money even if the mortgage payment every month, so I can buy this house. The third motive is it's not worth it. Let's be honest here. You want to buy a house in the middle of the housing crisis in the US because of your emotions. And you know what? That's okay. It's not a purely rational decision, but it doesn't have to be. If you've watched my conversation with Morgan Housel, you know he owns a house and he openly admits it was an emotional choice. I have a house too, a big one actually. It cost me millions of dollars, but here's the thing. Both Morgan and I are totally fine with that because we understood why we made that decision. But here's an important detail. Morgan didn't buy a house until he had a family. I traded for years until I had over $1 million in my account. If I had bought a house back then, I might not have grown as much financially. Why? Because I would have missed out on so many opportunities. I wouldn't have had the capital to invest in the right stocks or build my own business. Waiting gave me the freedom to grow my wealth in ways I couldn't have if I had tied it all up in a house. And there's one more thing, liquidity. You can sell your index fund at any time. I can sell everything I have in stocks right now, but I can't sell my house that quickly. If something happens and I need millions fast, it's not my house I would sell. It's too slow and it wouldn't be worth it. And listen to me, if you are forced to sell your house out of desperation, you're going to make a bad deal. You won't be able to properly evaluate the buyers. You likely end up selling at a loss because your options are limited in a rush. So the choice is yours, emotions or opportunities. And then fourth motive, we'll face a global crisis. I said several times in this video that there will be a crisis, but I didn't say why. You're feeling every month in your pocket a crisis coming. That's the biggest symptom. It's getting hard to buy things. If you're from Gen Z, you can't buy anything. You can't buy a house, a new car, healthy food, and you can't trip. And you know, market crashes all the time. Why do you think that all your life you've never seen a crisis? Don't be delusional. Let's face reality. Inflation is on the rise. The public debt of the United States is only growing, and this affects the whole world. In December 2024, the US Consumer Price Index, the CPI, increased by 0.4%, marking the most significant rise in 9 months. Inflation in 2024 was at 2.9%, a bit higher than expected. Prices are rising, particularly in energy and food. Economic growth is showing signs of slowing. The US economy grew at 3.1% in the third quarter of 2024, but growth is still below pre-pandemic levels and remains fragile. The Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates high to control inflation, which impacts loans, mortgages, and business investments. High interest rates usually slow down economic activity. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has downgraded global growth projections, projecting just 3.3% global growth for 2025 and 2026. It's lower than the pre-pandemic average of 3.7%. Market volatility, because the S&P 500, treasury bonds, gold, and Bitcoin are all showing mixed signals. These are all warning signs that we can't ignore. It's not about a single indicator, but a combination of things pointing towards potential risk. The economy is slowing, inflation is stubborn, interest rates are climbing, and global growth is weakening. It's time to face the reality that the next crisis might be just around the corner. So don't be caught off guard. Prepare now. And as I promised, here's how you can protect your money today. I'll walk you through Ray Dalio's all-weather portfolio, because this is a name you know and trust. In fact, I have an interview with him on the channel and we we talk precisely about times of crisis. Does Ray Dalio believe we are close to a crisis? In the card above, you can watch it in full. The name itself gives you a hint. It's all about being ready for anything. Think about packing a backpack for a trip, but you don't know what the weather will be like. It could be sunny, rainy, cold, or windy. So instead of just packing sunglasses or a raincoat, you bring a little bit of everything. Shorts, a jacket, an umbrella, and sturdy boots. That way, no matter what happens, you're covered. The all-weather portfolio is just like that backpack, but for your money. It's an investment strategy designed to perform well in any kind of economic environment, whether the economy is booming, slowing down, inflation is rising, or even the prices are stable. Here's how it's structured. 40% goes into long-term bonds. Think of this like a big warm coat. It's safe and reliable, especially during tough times. 30% is invested in stocks. These are your sunglasses. When the economy is sunny and growing, stocks help your money grow fast. 15% is in intermediate-term bonds. These are like a light jacket, steady, not too risky, and a good middle ground. 7.5% goes into gold. Gold is like an emergency kit. It's there for you when everything else seems to fall apart, like during inflation or crisis. 7.5% is in commodities. Think of this as a multi-purpose tool. Commodities like oil, wheat, and metals tend to do well during inflation. The beauty of this portfolio is that it doesn't try to predict the future. Instead, it prepares for whatever might come, spreading your investments across different assets to minimize surprises while still giving your money room to grow. But let's be real, the annual return of the traditional all-weather portfolio is around 7.67%. That's decent, but if you're looking for a bit more excitement, you might want to add some spice. For me, that means incorporating a small allocation to Bitcoin. And here's how I would adjust it. But first, let me be clear, this isn't financial advice. You shouldn't blindly follow me. Always study and understand your investments before making decisions. Also, keep in mind that no portfolio is risk-free. Diversification helps reduce risk, but it doesn't eliminate it entirely. Now here's my version. About 30% goes into the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, given exposure to the entire US stock market. The largest portion, 40%, is invested in long-term US Treasury bonds through the iShares 20+ year. It's called the Treasury Bond ETF. Another 15% goes into intermediate-term Treasury bonds with the iShares 3 to 7 year. It's called the Treasury Bond ETF. And to diversify further, 6.5% is allocated to the Invesco DB Commodity Tracking ETF, which invests in resources like oil, gas, and metals that tend to thrive during inflation. And equal 6.5% is placed in the SPDR Gold Trust, a classic hedge against market volatility. And finally, I add a small 2% to Bitcoin, giving the portfolio a touch of innovation and exposure to the rapidly evolving world of digital assets. In 16 years, this portfolio grew by 16.11%. Even with inflation, the return is still impressive, 13.19%. And if you had invested 100K initially and added 1K each month, it would have grown to a very good amount of $1,980,000. This setup aims to balance growth, stability, and a bit of modern flair. It's ready for just about any economic scenario while keeping things interesting with a small allocation to something cutting edge. That's it, cousins. If you like my content, don't forget to subscribe. I will always keep you updated. See you in the next video.